Since the early 1970s, much has been written about the care of infants and toddlers outside of the home. Burton White, 1975, and his followers stated that mothers should stay at home with their children during the first 3 years. High-quality environments that provide care for infants and toddlers offer caregivers who understand the three kinds of play, the stages of growth and development experienced by infants and toddlers, and how to scaffold these play experiences. The three kinds of play are discussed in the work of Piaget, Erikson, Anna Freud, and Vygotsky. The three kinds of play are sensorimotor, dramatic micro and macro, construction with both fluid and structural materials. The work of each of these theorists demonstrates how play impacts the total development of the young child. Development in every domain is positively supported as children develop play skills, and it is only with the loving, playful support of adults that the infant and toddler develop language and play skills, which will create the infrastructure for later school success. When infants and toddlers are engaging in sensorimotor play, they are interacting with people, play materials, and other objects in their environment. They use all their senses sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing to learn about their environment. And it is in these interactions, when a scaffolding by an interactive, playful adult, that move the child into dramatic and construction play. The newborn infant plays first with his own body, and then the bodies of his major caregivers, and then he moves on to play with toys. This was discovered by Anna Freud in 1968. Piaget's cognitive theory describes this progress. As the child plays first with his voice, fingers, and toes, moving into language exchanges and continuing play with his mother or caregiver's body. When toys become a part of his life, he discovers that he can make things happen, usually through a fortuitous happenstance. When his hands or feet hit against the playjet, toys and lights movement, or sounds emerge. He will very quickly begin to practice this cause and effect event and move into a discovery path. When his efforts are encouraged by positive adults, comments, or facial expressions, he will continue to explore. Knowledgeable adults should create playscapes for the infant to explore using mirrors and a variety of play objects. While the infant explores play materials and other objects in his environment, he will be developing skills in all domains if his development is supported by a loving, sensitive adult who follows his cues and his interests. As the infant becomes mobile, he will be able to choose his own play materials, and his eagerness and curiosity to learn is again supported when adults understand his actions and provide appropriate experiences. For example, the older infant will pull up to a table and begin to pound on it with his fist. The knowledgeable adult will say, "I can see you want to be pounding. Come and look at this toy. You can pound safely here." As she moves him gently onto the rug with a hammering set, no no's or negative harsh words are necessary when the child's play needs are met with an appropriate response from the adult. In this kind of environment, the child will be encouraged to explore and will eagerly experiment to discover how things work and what's happening. The positive self-concept, eagerness, and curiosity developed by the child during these sensorimotor experiences will provide the infrastructure he will need to try new things later in school. Sensorimotor 1 is where the child repeats an action without a toy. This is Anna Freud's body play. It can involve vocalizations or actions such as splashing in the water, patting on the sand, or just simply clapping their hands. Sensorimotor 2. The child repeats the same action with an object. He is moving to Anna Freud's play with toys. He bangs a shovel in the sand, pounds with a small hammer on the floor, or pours water from a container. Sensorimotor 3. In this stage, the child begins to have a goal. He engages in games such as empty and fill, hide and find, or build and destroy. The adult may stack 3 blocks and the child will knock them down, and then begin to stack and knock it down on his own. An adult can also help the child move into this stage by demonstrating how to fill a bucket with sand, using a shovel or pouring water into the pitcher with the goal of filling it. When the adult demonstrates how to fill the back of the dump truck with sand and drives the truck away making putt noises, she is modeling dramatic play, or symbolic play. Sensorimotor 4. This level of sensorimotor play requires the child to engage in trial and error. Older children and even adults can be seen engaging in this behavior. The child may pour the water from the filled pitcher into various sized containers, or use different objects to fill the bucket with sand. During these experiences, it is vital that the adult is attentive, not controlling the play, but adding language for understanding and questioning that will help the child extend his experience. Remember, children must be able to persist at a task and be eager and curious about learning. In the early months of the second year, the older infant should begin to engage in the early stages of dramatic play, also known as symbolic play. The research of Sarah Smilansky of 1968 has shown that children who cannot engage in dramatic play with other children have difficulty later in school. Piaget's work suggests that when children develop the ability to construct products with fluid and structured materials, they are practicing the skills found in later schoolwork. They learn to persist at the creation of a product, beginning it and finishing it, and later they will be able to pre-plan and tell a story about their product. In order to comprehend a story in a book, a child must be able to play a story and tell a story. The ability to realistically create products and construction play materials and engage in complex dramatic play scenarios with other children is the missing link. This developmental journey between the sensorimotor play observed in infants and toddlers and the work of older school-age children. The earlier stages of dramatic play and construction play are developed during the infant and toddler years. Numerous researchers and theorists have described the early stages of dramatic play. In order for caregivers to scaffold play experiences that will enhance children's play development, they must understand and be able to explain the play behaviors that they are observing. John Gowan synthesized the early elements of dramatic play defined by researchers and practitioners in an article published by Young Children in 1995. Her work suggests the following definitions for early dramatic play behaviors. Pretense is imagination. Not yet pretend play, but in order for the child to successfully move from imitation into pretend play, an adult must scaffold the experience. The infant puts the brush on his head, and the adult responds by saying, "Oh, Charlie, are you getting ready to go to school?" In pretense, the child briefly imitates a behavior he sees or that is done to him. He puts the doll bottle to his mouth, holds the toy phone to his ear, or opens and shuts the books. Pretend self. In this kind of pretend behavior, the child directs the action towards himself. He pretends to eat imaginary food from a pot or bucket in the sandbox. And the attentive adult can move him into the next stage by pretending other, by asking a simple question such as, "Can I have a bite? Oh, that smells good. What are you making?" Pretend other. The attentive adult easily moves the child into this kind of pretend play. When the child is pretending to pour water into a cup, the adult can say, "Oh, that looks good. May I have a cup?" She then holds out a cup for the child to fill and pretends to take a drink. She can extend this further by encouraging other children to join or moving the focus to a doll. And we move into substitution. Very young children can be observed using objects in a pretense manner, which differs from the object's actual use. Piaget and Vygotsky in 1967 and 1962 discussed the substitution of objects and its importance to the development of abstract thinking skills. They agree that dramatic or symbolic play provides the child the opportunity to separate ideas from the influence of the actual object. When a child uses an object differently from its intended use, a substitution, the symbol represented is in their mind. When an adult holds the shell to his ear and says, "Hello, hello, yes, Brianna is here," and handing the shell to the child, she is modeling substitution. Adults who play with children engage in these kinds of experiences every day, but they don't understand the significance the experience play in the child's development of later school skills. The word cat does not look like a cat, and therefore the child must be able to substitute the abstract symbol, the word, for the mental image of the cat. Imaginary objects or beings. When the child engages in this pretense behavior, he pretends that someone or something else is present. Sometimes the child himself becomes something or pretends to be riding on something. When the child engages in this kind of pretense, the object of the pretense is in its mind. He is developing his abstract thinking skills or his imagination. Adults are supporting the development of this kind of pretense when they use music to encourage the child to gallop, like a pony, or pretend to drive the car while sitting on a bench. Active agent. The child acts as an active agent when he animates a toy. When the child pretends that a toy is carrying out an action, he may begin to make noises and then begin to talk for his toys, even changing the voices. Adults need to be ready with verbal prompts and questions, such as, "Where's your car going?" or "Is Daddy driving?" This behavior away from sensorimotor play, rolling or smashing the car across the floor and into the wall, and into dramatic play. Sequence, no story. In this kind of pretense behavior, the child repeats a single pretense act involving multiple receivers. For example, he fills several containers with sand, puts them on the table, and says, "Birthday cake?" Or he puts a number of dolls into the cradle one at a time, converting each one with a blanket and giving it a gentle pat. Sequence story. In order to engage in this kind of pretense, the child must understand how actions and objects connect and be able to extend and maintain interactions. In sequence story pretense, the child will play out a story. For example, the child puts plates, cups, and plastic food on the table. He goes to the toy stove and stirs in the pot. He then takes the dolls from the cradle and places them in the chairs at each plate. He says, "Dollies, eat," and then puts them to sleep again in the cradle. The adult must verbalize the story for the child by making comments such as, "I see you cooked a good dinner for the babies. Did they like their dinner?" The sequence of the events or the story should continue to be verbalized by the adult as it unfolds throughout the child's play. When caregivers of infants and toddlers support the development of dramatic play skills, the children will successfully move into play with other children and be able to plan and enact vivid stories depicting their life experiences, colored by their imagination. Through dramatic play experiences, children can develop positive abilities in all domains, which will lead to success in elementary school. Construction play is discussed in the work of Piaget and Smolansky of 1968. Now, during construction play, Piaget suggests that the child is practicing the skills he will need for later schoolwork. Dr. Charles Wolfgang, in his book School for Young Children, suggests that construction materials can be classified on a continuum from the most fluid to the most structured. Fluid materials have no predetermined shape, such as sand, water, mud, clay, Play-Doh, etc. And structured construction materials have a predetermined shape that dictates how the child uses them. Large Legos, cardboard blocks, soft vinyl blocks, uniblocks, and puzzles are a few structured construction materials that can be used in the play of infants and toddlers. The infant and toddler need to explore many construction play materials in sensorimotor play before he'll be ready to create a product. The older infant and toddler will need daily opportunities to explore messy materials such as water, sand, oobleck, which is cornstarch and water, paint, and crayons. The older infant and toddler will through his senses and messy play experiences. This helps him to control materials and his own behaviors. With adult support, toddlers will learn to control paint and crayons, moving from the up and down strokes seen in early scribbling attempts to controlled scribbling with circles and the repetition of specific marks. They will begin to fill the entire page with paint and ask for a second page. Additional colors should be added at this time so that the child can begin to develop beyond just sensorimotor behavior at the easel. Adults should not attempt to teach children the stages of early scribbling or easel painting. The adult's role is to provide opportunities to experience these materials daily and to scaffold the child's experience with language. The following scales can be observed in the products of toddler. The acquisition of the skills necessary to progress through these scales is supported through the intensity and density of play experience with these materials. Plan for the intensity and density of experiences. Intensity is defined as the number of times a child is allowed to experience an activity or a certain kind of play. For example, how many songs are sung in a day? How many stories are read? Or how many opportunities are provided for the children to develop dramatic play skills? Density is defined as the variety and richness of the play experience. If the same play materials are set out the same way every day, there is no density in the play experiences. For example, songs are sung as the children play. They are sung in a special circle time. They are sung to comfort and music played to encourage dancing and playing rhythm instruments. Have a variety of materials that support the development of the children and the three kinds of play. Have a variety of materials and activities that support literacy experiences and the development of early reading and writing skills. For example, plan for the intensity and density of experiences. Intensity is defined as the number of times the child is allowed to experience an activity or a certain kind of play. For example, how many songs are sung in a day? How many stories are read? Or how many opportunities are provided for the children to develop dramatic play skills? Density is defined as the variety and richness of the play experiences. If the same play materials are set out the same way every day, there is no density in the play experiences. For example, songs are sung as the children play. They are sung in special circle times. They are sung to comfort when music is played to encourage dancing and playing rhythm instruments. Plan for the intensity and density of experiences. Intensity is defined as the number of times a child is allowed to experience an activity or a certain kind of play. For example, how many songs are sung in a day? How many stories are read? Or how many opportunities are provided for the children to develop dramatic play skills? Density is defined as the variety and richness of the play experience. If the same play materials are set out the same way every day, there is no density in the play experiences. For example, songs are sung as the children play. They are sung in a special circle time. They are sung to comfort and music played to encourage dancing and playing rhythm instruments. Have a variety of materials that support the development of the children and the three kinds of play. Have a variety of materials and activities that support literacy experiences and the development of early reading and writing skills. For example, plan for the intensity and density of experiences. Intensity is defined as the number of times the child is allowed to experience an activity or a certain kind of play. For example, how many songs are sung in a day? How many stories are read? Or how many opportunities are provided for the children to develop dramatic play skills? Density is defined as the variety and richness of the play experiences. If the same play materials are set out the same way every day, there is no density in the play experiences. For example, songs are sung as the children play. They are sung in special circle times. They are sung to comfort when music is played to encourage dancing and playing rhythm instruments.